You all know this mask, but before it was a symbol for rebellion. Guy Fawkes was a real guy, and he was sentenced to literally one of the most insane public executions ever invented. Everyone knows his name, but what actually happened in his final hours is way crazier than you think. We're talking insane pain, unbreakable will, and one final move that completely robbed the executioner of his big moment. This is the insane story of how his brutal death made him a legend. But what if he actually succeeded? Can you imagine? On November 5th, 1605, one spark hits 36 barrels of gunpowder. The explosion would have been massive. It would have literally deleted the center of London and wiped out the entire English government in a single explosion. History would be completely different. But he failed. And because he failed, the government was going to make him suffer in the worst way possible. So, why were they trying to do this? Well, England in 1605 was an absolute pressure cooker. If you were Catholic, you were basically an enemy of the state. The government was persecuting them like crazy. They hoped the new king, James I, would chill things out. But nope, he made it even worse. Being a Catholic was dangerous. You couldn't even skip church without getting hit with insane fines. So a small group of guys, led by this dude Robert Catesby, decided they had to do something extreme. They needed a guy who knew explosives and wasn't afraid of anything. They found Guy Fawkes. He wasn't even the leader of the plot, but he was a military expert and was 100% committed. He literally thought he was on a mission from God, and that belief was about to be pushed to its absolute limit. And their plan was crazy detailed. They rented a basement right under the government building and spent months sneaking in barrels of gunpowder. We're talking a literal ton of gunpowder. They were ready for November 5th. The king, his son, everyone important was going to be in the room right above the bomb. They were so close to pulling it off. But then someone sent a secret letter to a lord, telling him to stay away from the building. The letter was super vague, just saying a terrible blow was coming, but it was enough to freak everyone out. So they searched the building. The first search was super lazy, but then they did a second, more serious search, and in the middle of the night they found a guy who called himself John Johnson, just chilling with a massive pile of firewood. And guess what was underneath it? All the gunpowder. That man was Guy Fawkes. They arrested him right there, and he even had the matches in his pocket. When they asked him what he was doing, he literally told them he was going to blow them all up. The king actually thought his attitude was kind of impressive, but that was not going to save him. So they dragged Fawkes to the Tower of London, and this is where things get insane. For days, they interrogated him, but he would not break. He was like, yeah, I did it. But he refused to give up the names of his friends. He was so loyal, it was making the government furious. Now, torture was supposed to be illegal, but the king himself signed a special order to allow it. He literally wrote, "Start with the gentle tortures, and then use the harsher ones." The gentle tortures meant chaining him to a wall for days. When that didn't work, they brought out the rack. This thing was a legit torture machine designed to pull every single one of your joints apart. I'm talking ligaments tearing, bones popping out of sockets. The pain is something you can't even imagine. It was designed to break anyone. And for a while, Fawkes actually held on. But nobody can survive the rack forever. After days of this, completely broken, he finally gave them what they wanted. He told them his real name and then started naming everyone else. And you can literally see the torture on his signature. His first one is strong. The last one is just a pathetic, shaky scribble. He was completely destroyed. The trial on January 27th was a total sham. Everyone knew what was going to happen. They literally put Fawkes and his friends on trial in the same building they tried to blow up. The charge was high treason. the worst crime you could possibly commit. And when they read the charges, Fawkes pleaded not guilty, not because he was denying it, but just as one last protest against the whole system. It didn't do anything, but it was a bold move. The verdict was immediate: guilty, and the punishment was designed to be the most horrifying public spectacle you can imagine: hanged, drawn, and quartered. This is not a fast way to die. It's a long public torture session to scare anyone else from trying the same thing. First, they drag you through the streets tied to a piece of wood. Then, they hang you but cut you down while you're still alive. The executioner then cuts off your private parts and burns them right in front of your eyes. Next, he guts you and pulls out your intestines. And finally, they chop off your head and cut your body into 4 pieces to put on display all over the country. Insane. On January 31st, 1606, it was time for Guy Fawkes' execution. He was so weak from the torture he could barely even walk. They dragged him and 3 of his friends through the streets to the execution spot, right in front of the building they failed to destroy. He was forced to watch his friends get executed one by one in that horrible way. When it was his turn, he was the last one. Someone who was there said he was so weak he could barely climb the ladder to the noose. He asked for forgiveness, but he never renounced his faith. He's slowly climbing the ladder. But then, with the last ounce of strength he had, he jumped. He threw himself off the ladder so hard that it snapped his own neck instantly. He died right there on impact, completely cheating the executioner out of the main event, the live torture. He escaped the worst of the pain, but they still did the whole crazy ritual on his dead body and sent the pieces all over England as a warning. This entire event completely changed England. The government cracked down even harder on Catholics. They made November 5th a national holiday to celebrate, which is why people in the UK still light bonfires and fireworks today. They even burn a model of the Guy. But what's crazy is that over hundreds of years, Guy Fawkes went from being the biggest villain ever to something totally different. Now his mask is famous all over the world as a symbol for fighting against the system, thanks to V for Vendetta. The story of his insane death is a reminder of how brutal governments can be. But that final jump he took literally changed how he's remembered forever. The guy who was meant to be a warning became a legend. If you think this story was insane, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video where we uncover more crazy history. And I want to know what you think. Comment below. Was Guy Fawkes a terrorist or a freedom fighter? Let's see it.